Tesla Model X with an insulation problem. The car was driving, because at some point, it became now we are checking the engine. There is no breakdown visible on the motor. The motor firm is already different from the claim. There is a completely different principle of the motor. In general, now we continue to diagnose, and we will look for what is the problem. Dent is deep enough. Theoretically, I could get to the element, but it's not clear yet. Therefore, we will now continue to understand and look. We will remove the handles. See if there's any water there. Just this was the problem when it was like this. Now there were deep puddles. We will diagnose and continue to diagnose myself. Only here, there will be contact of Mars through a single type of breakdown. How many 300 kcal batteries? Here are all the damages on the battery. By T, or third now, and let's go. It has already been made more comfortable here. The lid opens completely without a laser through this hatch. Bending the battery cover itself. Therefore, they have already done it more thoughtfully here. There was a typewriter. Here, too, everything is wet. Well, the car dived, visible. There were already deep waters of it here. The battery has not been opened before us. We will be her first, and so in general, the design is very similar to the Skyline tests. A model with such a motor and look. What other pre-motors differ from the Village more than on, and through up to the version not the rear smaller end. In general, they removed it, even put it on defense. So now the motor is not visible. But although I shot it, and this video will be made another time like this. Something is now some kind of heart, is not sure of some. They haven't added anything yet. They've put something on top of it. Apparently they themselves are like these stripes come from excess. They are cut out apparently in the form of a battery of protrusions by a pretentious profit module. This serves as an additional protection. In the event of a fire, mica stands, and there is such a mad sealants on top. It is loose in places. Photo neighborhood code. It will be made. Yes, there was no place for gluing. Yes, it can be a blade so that customers do not tear out of. But this thing, yes, there is some water got under the oilcloth and shallow water. Well, that it will be necessary to hide it. Amplifiers are still not everywhere. only there are two amplifiers on the rear, and then it already went without them. Yes, of course it's nice to look when no one has hidden the battery yet, when it's smooth and even. But this is before the first autopsy. After the autopsy on it becomes of course not so attractive anymore. And there is nothing you can do about it. It is glued to the sealant with a tin can, and when you cut it off, it will deform and acquire the same unpresentable appearance. Therefore, well, will we continue to open it and disassemble it? Then, everything is much more convenient. Already in Minsk, there is good access and a contactor, and everything is closed. Also, do not put your hands in. I didn't kill right away, but it's already more thoughtful. Unlike the suits on this battery, these spacers are twisted with a left thread. I don't know. Why did they do this? Perhaps in order not to put these supplies here with the ESC. But nevertheless, there is a thread back. And that's why Tesla does not stand still. It always changes something. At least does the thread change with the paragraph water in the forest at all? Since there is a spout here, we have people so. Due to the fact that these are 70 heel batteries, and there are more elements in the 10, and there are more restyled ones. Therefore, here 175, there are no 2 elements of 2 modules, and in 170 heels, all modules are there. They removed the lid from the battery. In principle, everything was clear here. The node modules are worth it. There is another question: how farsighted are Tesla's engineers? Where was the blow from this country? Here, they didn't put a bunch of elements on purpose, but here there are elements, and 2155 jumpers go to them. And here is emptiness, and that's just it. Here we are a blow, here is just the damage, and we see the saggy reckoned that there could be a waste of trouble here. Therefore, I did not specifically put all the elements, so that they would not close such farsighted engineers over if yes. If a car goes to England, then there will be elements needed, and here the ribs are not aluminum. Some kind of plastic. You can see how I raised it here. Therefore, in principle, there is protection, that there is no element, and it worked water on the valves. Over there where the plugs are on the plugs water. And shorter. We will remove the elements, look at it, on all the water, on all the valves, water is actually a module. With a reduced voltage, the voltage is reduced, and these are not the elements, but simply the jumpers that connect. And in order to pass the currents that will pass, connects the polygons so that the passes pass such currents so as not to put down. And only on these ones, therefore, there are more jumpers here, so that they do not overheat, they do not burn out, they remove the module. Here is a crack in the battery housing, and that's just through the crack, the water flowed here, well. And then, heating, cooling steam fog, and condensate flow between the covers if the previous module at home with. Here it is welded, then here it is laid, the sealant is screwed on, but there is still at the edges. And here it is clear that the water is dirty on the valves, it is dirt, garbage, well, of course the same module will be. But now that the module is crumpled, it is already better to see how much water there are in the valves here. And here, by the way, there are not valves but plugs in this module. There are plugs in this module. But, in the next module, there are already valves, that is in principle if yes, and here I have already shown it a gap like this crack. But they're on the other side. Let's say there is clean water here without dirt. I know if it will be visible, but there is water on the tank, and this whole water is just coming here. And by the way, it consists of 6 places where the valves are inserted, only 2 valves for plugs. Initially we wanted to trim and brew the batteries, but after an unsuccessful attempt, we decided not to risk it, and found for a relatively small amount the battery case in perfect condition, and the only dirty one was mine. They washed it, tore off the sealant, and a new one. The stuffy case was assembled by the battery. The battery has already been assembled, but as we install the module, and at the same time we are now checking for tightness, whether there is any leakage where we put Freon, took a doll like this. They closed the circuit and fed it into the cooling system. 3. It's over there where the leak starts to squeak. Went along the edge on an elastic band, and there is no sound clearly. The department is uneven here. We were going to have already gone there on heavy, under this elastic band, it's coming here for you. The battery realized it was sitting down again that corner. Well, at least everything is connected 306 volts at the output. But at the same time you are connected to the battery. We believe that the resistance of hunger will not inflate the Pope's side more under 40 me home. Let's have another body kit probably, but there is no board, and all the bases, so she asks to go and that's it. Walls, and if you want to ram the wall. All right, you can go back. Yes, you go and committed suicide will not work, but then the assembly of the battery, gluing the top cover, installation on the car, connection of a diagnostic device, and the launch of the daring and cooling systems. But of course, the test checkout is what we use as diagnostic equipment for diagnosing Tesla. I made a separate video, I'll leave a link at the top. I will attach a link at the top, and you can come and see. And after installing the battery, of course, it is desirable to pump the cooling system, so that there are no overheating, and so that it is fast. We also do everything with the help of Loki. Which factors of help are launched can be observed. Which images are launched, in principle, this can be observed on the monitor. We pumped the system out, it limited the torque. The smart car overheats, so that it does not agree. With a huge shock, he abruptly began to fall only by 50. He amused himself to fall, but look, in principle, here and here you have not equaled yet, that is, there is still potential. For marriage, the pump went on, let the youth oil be 100% pumped, according to the checks. The departure took exactly a year. How we put our first battery on the car. It was a Nissan Leaf for E0, and this is exactly the car that we tested. We drove around the circumference at a low speed. We also rode in the usual mode. In general, we tested it, gave it to the owner. The owner has been driving for a year. Let's see how much mileage. I will write how much the total mileage was for this year. The car was not seen by the child, but by the chargers from the owner. We charged it to start Master of Arts, but the owner himself and did not charge it. She has charging at home, and he charged it only from slow charging. And now the car has come to us, so that we install it in a bowl here for. In order for the company to reread the mileage. So now we remove the battery and open it. Let's see what happened to the battery.